Hello and welcome to the newest episode of the Right Stuff Anime Podcast. My name is Thomas Breckeridge. I am a merchandising manager, and joining me today is...
I'm Quinn, also a merchandising coordinator.
I'm Chris, another merchandising coordinator.
I'm Will. I'm a social media coordinator.
I always feel like you're trying to rub that in on us. Yeah, I'm the different one.
One of these things is not like the other.
Yeah. Sounds accurate.
All right.
We get off to an awkward foot.
We like to joke on this show.
Yes, we joke a lot. A lot of joking before we even start. So.
Oh, man.
Sometimes it makes it in the blooper reels.
Yeah. Today's episode, we're going to kind of go over some of the stuff we've been watching and reading. We're going to have a quick little discussion about anime and manga in the sense that if you start watching an anime, does it ever make you just want to pick up the manga? And if you do pick up the manga, do you like to read ahead? Or do you like to just kind of stay around with it and not to spoil anything for yourself? We're going to briefly discuss Millennium Actress, as 3 of the 4 of us have seen it. We're going to talk about our last week of donations for Kyo Annie. And we're going to kind of give some recommendations, some anime films of our own. So let's get started. Quinn, what have you been watching and reading these last 2 weeks?
All right, so I'm keeping up with my shows that are streaming currently. Given has gotten out in the lead of my favorites. It is so good. It's kind of slower paced, but it's got like a really good character-driven story going on. And it's starting to delve into the side guitarists and the drummers' personal lives too. So the cast, even though they've been there, it feels like it's expanded, and it's just got an awesome soundtrack. I'm loving it. For my let's have a show to binge when I have nothing to watch because everything's already caught up is Kyo Caramel. So I'm working through the first season of that. I think I rented it at a movies or something and once way back on VHS because I know I've seen it, but I don't own it, so I don't know where I would have watched it otherwise. But I'm enjoying that too, and it's just as crazy as what I remember it being. But still good. For the manga side of things, I'm working on Arata, the Legend, which I did not realize was written by the same author as Fushigi Yugi, which automatically kicked it down a notch of interest for me after I learned that.
So you're not a Fushigi Yugi fan?
Tomohime, or whatever his name is.
That thing was super popular back in the day.
It was. I have a friend who's completely smitten with it, and I'm just like, you've got a bad Chinese, bootleg going on here. It hurt my eyes. That's what I remember about the show the most.
I still own the old media. I think they're Media Blaster.
Yes.
DVD sets.
Yes.
Yeah, they're very, very old now.
I will say that those sets, they are really nice because they've got the nice plastic slipcover box thing going on with them, and they're really pretty. Needless to say, I bought them because that friend got me really interested in it before I realized just how repetitive it is. But Arata, there's definitely inspiration taken from Fushigi Yugi. So there is an anime that exists of it, and it only got so far, so that's why I picked it up to see how it actually ends. So I'm going to finish it, but I'm glad I'm checking it out from the library. It's worth a rental. And those are the main highlights of what I'm keeping up with right now.
Cool. Chris, what have you been up to?
Well, as far as current stuff, I'm still getting into some of the newer things, but Demon Slayer is still holding my interest. A couple of weeks ago, Thomas was just like, you need to see the animation at the end of this one episode. And I was like, oh crap, my roommate and I need to catch up. And oh my goodness, it was so beautiful. This arc that they seem to be wrapping up here has just been really impressive visually, and it's just such a visual delight and something that you just need to see. It's just really well done the way they handle it, the characterization, the in-depth they get, and some of the villain's character.
That Spider-Boy, he needed to die, I'm sorry.
Right? Oh man, he had that coming.
Jeez.
So, spoilers. But
I know.
And then as far as I've been slow binging other stuff too. My big thing has been JoJo's, and I just wrapped the 4th series and have just started in the 5th, and it's just interesting to see how they can use what originally was just a grudge between 2 guys growing up and just blossom into this crazy overarching supernatural thriller that goes into different places, because season 2 is just weird mystical stuff. Season 3 it's like Indiana Jones just wandering across the desert. Season 4 is just, we're just gonna stay in one town, we're gonna be real goofy. And now season 5 I've gotten to, and it's just okay, we're doing this mob thing, but also all our costumes are the most ridiculous things ever, and it's just kind of great. And another thing, being a big music guy, I just love all the licensed closing things. It was awesome. Like when we had all the roundabout memes going on a few years ago when the first series started, and then they threw in like "Walk Like an Egyptian." Season 4 had I Want You by Savage Garden, and now season 5, since it actually takes place in normal eras, it's cracking me up. Now the new song they have is Jodeci's Freakin' You, and to hear some of that slow jam late 90s R&B, like unseemly things are about to happen kind of music, just to end every episode of JoJo's, it just cracks me up so hard. But it's just such a great mishmash of a whole bunch of different influences, and it delights me to no end.
JoJo's.
I always feel like whenever I'm like, oh, I'm really digging this, Tom's just like,
JoJo.
huh.
Well, no, I actually really like JoJo's, but it's like a lot. Like,
oh, yeah.
it's like one of those things that I watch a couple episodes of it, and then I like take a break from it because it is quite a bit.
It is super extra, that is for sure.
Yeah, but no, I do love it. And I think they just announced that the next part of it is going to get made too.
Nice.
But I can't remember who's involved or what's going on with that. But I mean, it's just going to be more JoJo's, so it'll be great. So, cool. All right. Well, what have you been up to?
Oh, I've been driving through that backlog of Funimation. So I finished up Welcome to the NHK. Loved it. Really enjoyed it a bunch. I wish there was more human drama anime like that. Mm-hmm. And then I decided to pick up Space Dandy.
Oh boy!
Right afterwards. And it's been an experience.
I feel so sorry for the robot. It's like, come on, guys, quit making him your maid.
Yeah, the robot's like this really like sensible and like smart person surrounded by these couple of idiots.
Although the cat alien is my favorite.
Oh yeah, Meow is just he's like this cat alien looking thing. He's just got this really like neat and cool design that I like a lot.
How far are you in the Space Dandy? Well,
I've gotten 3 episodes in so far.
I can't ask you what your favorite episode is yet.
No, not quite. I heard that. I mean, I originally got on it because Watanabe it was directing it, but I heard like other like well-known directors do like different episodes depending on what you do. So I'm interested in seeing what that is. It is a bit episodic for me.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm going to do is that I'm going to watch 2 episodes of a super depressing show and then watch Space Dandy as the 3rd episode. And
spoiler alert: there is at least one episode in Space Dandy that will probably bring you to tears.
Oh,
which it comes out of the blue because, like you were saying, like it is very much like in the Cowboy Bebop sense that you can watch episode 17 and like you can understand what's going on. Like the beginning of it does introduce the characters, but after that it's very much like one episode will end with like everybody dying, but then the next episode like everything's like fine again. It's just another adventure.
And they never address it. It's just like, we survived. Great. I don't know what you guys are doing.
I would have killed for another 24 episodes of that show. My personal favorite one was the zombie episode where the outbreak basically takes over the whole universe, and like by the end of it, even the 3 main characters are zombies, and oh god, it's such a good episode.
But like everybody's cool with it. That's the interesting thing.
Let's just continue living our lives.
Interesting lifestyle choice.
Yeah, but no, the episode, the very sad episode, is probably one of my top 3 in there. But I'm not going to read it for you. I'll wait till you see it. I'll wait till you see if you can realize that that's where the episode's going. Because like 15 minutes into the episode, I was like, oh, this is just normal. And then like the last 5 minutes, I was like, oh no. So.
Yeah, it's great to see Studio Bones being able to do like the crazy stuff like that, and they're always able to add little things. Like in the first episode, like Space Danny is like twirling his gun, and then he looks like he's putting his gun back into his holster, but he actually drops it. It's a little thing that you might not notice the first time, but like when you do, it's like, oh my god, that's hilarious.
For me, I just kind of been watching streaming stuff. I've been kind of busy with a couple other things, so the usual Demon Slayer. I'm continuing to watch Astra. Astra is just amazing. I'm so happy that after we reviewed it last week, the manga, the anime adaptation is just so good. Like, they're doing a great job with it, and just based on the fact that I really didn't feel like a lot of people were ever talking about it when it came out, that it's getting a great adaptation, that so many people are going to be introduced to it now and find the joy in that one. And the only other one is my continued love for Vinland Saga. The last episode, I some people didn't really care for because the animation. So there's, I don't know if you'd call him a villain, but there's these two factions of the French that are fighting, and the one that the Vikings team up with is animated very like oddly, like he almost looks frog-like. Like when he opens his mouth, like his mouth is gigantic, and it's very over the top. There's a scene in it where they are attacking the opposition, and the way they do it is they're in a castle surrounded by a moat, and basically they can't get to them because they're basically just shooting them with arrows. And so what they do is the Vikings carry their own ships up in the air and run right at it, and then basically get their ships in the moat, go around, and then basically just kind of
go in the back door.
Yeah, basically is what they do. And they're all they're like, oh, I don't know why we didn't think of that. That just kind of makes me laugh. But like they, the French group that they're teaming up with, they don't expect it to happen. So like they're running over them, and he's like sitting on the ground, and it's like comedic faces and stuff. And for a show that's been so serious, like it does kind of throw you. But I mean, that kind of stuff does happen in the manga. There are these over the top scenes and over the top reactions. So hopefully it didn't throw people off too much. I thought it was kind of comical. But no, that show's just cruising right along, and they're finally getting to about the part where the first volume starts, where Thorfinn is the actual age that he is, and they kind of skipped around. He started when he was younger, but no, I mean the show's cruising right along, and then it isn't something I've been watching or reading, but me and my wife have just been cleaning up stuff around the house, getting rid of some manga series we no longer read and stuff like that. And it's always kind of cool to just go through all your old stuff and, remind yourself like, oh man, I haven't watched this in like 15 years, or I haven't watched this in 10 years, or like popping in and be like, oh man, that didn't hold up at all. So.
And the minute you sell it is when you'll be like, where is that? I want to see it again.
Yeah, or you have a friend that's like, I want to borrow this, or you have some assignment where you're like, I need to study this for a panel I'm doing or something, and then you don't have it anymore.
Yep.
But got to free up space. That's the only bad part about being a physical file, is you do eventually just start to run out of room.
No, that's a lie.
Get a storage unit. Build your own little reading library.
But then you're just annoyed that it's not easily accessible. You're like, I got to get in my car and go drive to a storage unit, or
the reading library. That's what you call it.
The reading
Make it a
library.
little bit
What you
nicer.
need to
Put
do
a little
is-
recliner in there.
Yeah, or you put those bookshelves that glide on tracks.
Yes.
And then
That's a
just
good
make
idea.
one big solid room full of nothing but books on glided tracks.
I just need to get rich enough to build my own house. That's basically the only thing that we need now. I just want to get everything out of boxes. I think that's what we're leaning at. So, okay, brings us on to kind of our next subject. So I was kind of thinking about this week. So I just started binging like Demon Slayer like crazy after I've really gotten into the anime. And most of it is available on the Shonen Jump app right now, unless you are buying it physically, which I do both. I get it physical, but I also like to read ahead. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's like, "Well, why are you reading the manga of it? Like the anime's on right now. Like you're gonna kill like all the momentum of the show because you know exactly what's gonna happen." I'm like, "Well, that doesn't bother me because." Like I read it and I'm like, oh man, that's gonna be so cool to see it animated. So that like brings my want to still watch it, is like I want to see it. Like Vinland Saga, I've read Vinland Saga when I saw it was going to be made into a show. I like freaked out. Like, so I'm kind of asking everybody here, kind of what's your opinion? Do you, if you're really into a show, do you wait for the show to be done then read the manga, or like if you're getting into an anime, like do you pick up the manga and start reading ahead? Like Quinn, what's your kind of feeling on that?
I'm torn because it depends on the show. My one that's popping in my head the most is Haikyuu.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched the anime first, didn't expect it to continue because it's it's got multiple different tournaments that they're in. So I was like, oh, this probably won't keep going. So I picked up the manga and was reading it. And then the next season came out, and I'm like, oh. But the momentum was gone for me. So for the third season, I didn't read ahead. And then it ended, and I went back and read some of the manga. So now I'm back in the problem with the fourth season, where I'm going to know what's going on, and the momentum is going to be gone.
So does that bother you?
It does. It does. It really does. Because, like, the momentum is still there in the manga, but I'm not as caught up in the anime, I think, is why I don't really like reading ahead. Like, I'm still getting that high for the momentum that's being produced by the action in either version, but because I know what's going on, it's not as intense. And I know that for like the first season of Haikyuu, I literally went back and would watch the previous episode prior to the new episode that came out because I needed that momentum, because they always cut off. It's always like, oh, did they make it? What happened? Chunk! Oh, credits.
Sounds like Kukuro's basketball.
Yeah, except much better.
Yes. I liked Kukuro's basketball, but that's just because I like basketball, and I thought it was hilarious that 2 minutes of a game takes 20 minutes of an episode.
So long.
But
yeah, and then like Blue Exorcist, that one, I didn't expect that to finish out. So I've been keeping up with that one too. And then so when the second season came out, and everyone's like, what the hell is going on? I have no idea. I knew because I was ahead, and I'm gonna have to throw a certain publisher under the bus here, but I can't afford said sets. Sorry, Aniplex. So I have to go buy this manga. Like, I remember a certain point in time where I flat out was like, all right, I either have to buy the manga or the anime. I can't afford both. And now I'm just like, oh, screw it, buy paycheck. I'll go buy the manga. And then they continue on, and I'm like, would you end the series? This is getting expensive. Like, I kept up with Maji, or Magi, whatever.
I think of it as Maji.
Yeah. And that's I don't like what they did with the plot. I really don't like what they did with the plot.
They're like 30-some volumes in now because
the last one's like 30
reads it and I see it on the shelf
or something.
37.
Yeah, so it's like I got to a certain point in the manga. I think I got up to like volume 24 that I owned before I was like, what are you doing? And now I'm just buying the rest of it because I invested all this money.
Then just sell the whole thing on eBay when you're done with it, because you.
Yeah, I could.
And I mean,
then it's like, but I bought this.
We just got rid of 7 Deadly Sins because that is just kind of went off a cliff.
Oh no.
And unfortunately, but I mean, the beginning of the series is great, but I think it's really hard for mangas that get in the 30s and 40s to keep their welcome. So
well, it depends on the author too. Like, if you're doing a good job keeping the plot consistent and it's tight, I'm fine with it. But like D. Gray Man, what the hell happened to that thing?
Well,
oh my gosh!
I know the mangaka, the author, has had like the worst health issues.
Yeah,
like,
and
ever.
I'm not like blaming the mangaka for just going off the rails, but at the same time, did you read what you wrote previously before you wrote this new chapter? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Because the latest omnibus, I started reading that, and I was just like, what is going on? I have no idea. Like, I felt I was reading something completely different.
And then people get mad at, the mangaka of Hunter x Hunter. Like, all right, they do take forever to write chapters, but the story's still good.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'll wait until the writer of Berserk is 98 years old. If he ends it in a great way, like, I'll wait. Like, we've all seen what happens when you rush things. Like, I mean, I'm talking about TV shows, but Game of Thrones. But just take your time, telling the story. Chris, what's your feelings?
So it's a little bit tricky for me. Like, one of the things about our position in the company is we help post the stuff on the website. And I handle VizBooks, and so, like, I've been getting into Dr. Stone and or Demon Slayer, but then, like, I'm posting the volume previews for, like, books that are coming out 4 months down the road, and it's just like, oh, so this is what happens, and there's this thing that shows up. Like, what the hell is that?
I gotta just interject here. I will not read those synopses. I make somebody else proofread them for me. I don't ruin it for myself.
But when you have to post them, you're still exposed to them anyway.
Nope.
I get that. I can't ship it off to somebody else. I don't have that convenience. And so I'm just super a little bit spoiled in that case, but at the same time, I kind of want to see how we get there. And so if I want to check out the manga, sometimes I will. I think for my situation, though, what happens more often is when those two different things take grand deviations. Like, I think the best way to use as an example was His and Her Circumstances. I was a big fan of the anime, and yes, I know it sort of ended in a bit of a weird train wreck. But I loved the show, and I started reading the manga when it came out, when Tokyo Pop put it out 10, 15 years ago, and I stuck with that all the way to the end, and it was cool because they greatly diverted, because the show just sort of stopped, and it was awesome to see the storyline continue to play out and see what happened with these characters, and just to get the resolution that you were able to get because they kept on going. They didn't have to just stop at 26 episodes and then the director wandered off to do whatever shiny thing gleamed in front of him next. But then there's also things like Akira. Like, I obviously watched the movie first before the manga, but then finally, like, I checked it out at the local library, and it's, once again, a cool situation where you get to see the story continue where you left off. And then I think the another good example that doesn't really fit, because it's not really manga or anime, but it's a very similar vein, the Scott Pilgrim books. I discovered those books first, and then when I got done with Volume 4 and I found out that Edgar Wright, one of my favorite directors, was adapting it, I was like, holy crap, this is going to be awesome. But by the time the movie had dropped, Volume 6 of the book had yet to come out, and they didn't really coordinate much, so they have completely different endings. But I think they're both very good, and it's cool to see what you do with that sort of diverging difference of how do we wrap this up. And I think they both had their own unique takes on it, and I thought it was really good. So, like, often, like, if it's just like, this seems to be a very straightforward adaptation, I might not check out the manga. But if it's like, oh, so this is what they did, and this is what the other people did, then I'm definitely interested to see another take. I kind of like seeing it from different angles. It's a kind of cool way to be able to approach media, and that's one of the beauties of manga and anime is sometimes everybody puts their own creative spin on something.
Will, what's your feelings?
Yeah, well, for me, the biggest factor in all this, in my decisions like that, is time. Like, there's only so much time to read a manga and then watch the anime, or vice versa. So for me, it just really depends on a couple of factors. Usually, whatever I started first. Because for me, I read Assassination Classroom first, and then I saw that the anime was like 50 episodes or so, and I was like, do I have the time? Or, I mean, maybe someday, or at least go and check out some of the stuff in the manga that I thought would be cool to see animated, see how they turned out. But I might not ever see the anime. But then there's other ones where it's like Girls' Last Tour, where they only adapted like 4 out of the 6 volumes of the show. And since there's no announcement that it'll ever continue, I'll most likely I need to at least read the last 2. And then I'll probably need to pick up 1 through 4 just to make sure everything lines up nicely with each other. And then you've got shows like One Piece or Naruto, where it's like, even when where there's just a bunch of quote unquote filler in the anime and like flashbacks and stuff, to where it's like it would be a whole lot shorter to read the manga than it would be to watch the anime. So, I mean, I will eventually get to reading One Piece. I mean, the 100th volume's coming out probably in the next
it's only
year or two. So I feel like I need to see what all the hubbub is about.
It's a little more feasible than about 1,000 episodes.
Yeah.
I will say this as somebody who reads One Piece. It reads way better than it watches.
Okay.
And if you get into it, it goes fairly quickly. I think I started reading One Piece maybe last year, and I think it only took me 6 months to read the whole thing, and this was
wow.
like reading on a lunch, reading like maybe a couple chapters before bed. Reading just to me just goes so much faster, and I guess for me it's like, if there is a large anime of something and there's a manga, I will probably read the manga, and then like there's certain points that are super cool, like, spoiler alert, let's say One Piece where Ace dies, which this happened years and years ago now, so if you didn't realize it, I'm sorry. Like that was a cool scene. Like that whole Marineford arc is a great arc, and I went and I watched it because I wanted to see it animated, and it was really cool. But like a lot of the scenes where people are just talking and things are getting set up in one piece, yeah, it's a lot. So just kind of watching the highlights and stuff, but. I guess I've always been like, oh my god, that was an amazing episode. What's going to happen next week? I grab the book and open it up, and I'm like, oh, so that's what's going to happen next week. And like, it just doesn't bother me at all, like whatsoever. I don't like things spoiled for me. So like if it's like an original anime or something, like I don't like it if a leak happens and something gets out because I like to like experience it my own way. But I can easily watch an anime and then pick up the manga and not think twice about it. I might just be the weird one there that's doing it because I'm doing it with Demon Slayer right now. And
well, I understand the mindset of doing that because it's like if you have the ability to not have to wait, why wait? But yeah, then the momentum is just dead for me. But that's me.
I don't know. And then like My Hero, I'm all caught up. So like this whole next season, like I already know what's gonna happen, but it's gonna be a great season. Like it's gonna be super cool. There's a lot of awesome things that happen. And I don't know. I've always liked to go to like the message boards on Reddit too, and they always have like if the anime is showing, they have like a whole part of the forum that's just talking about the anime. And it's interesting to see what people think are gonna happen, and then you knowing what happens. And they always do a strict thing where like. They'll block you or kick you off if you're a manga reader and you get on and try to spoil things for people. But I have always liked just to get on and see, and I did the same thing like after the first season of Game of Thrones came out, I read all the books, so I knew what was going to happen with the Red Wedding. I don't know if people watch Game of Thrones here, but it was interesting to see how they built to it because you see all the little things and people's reaction to it, but I don't know. I just give me the story. Like if I'm into it, like I want to binge it all. I want to take it all in. Like I've never been the episodic kind of person, like waiting week to week for something. Like the Netflix strategy, God bless them. God bless that they give me 11 episodes of a series and I can just like binge through it. Like I don't know.
But Carol and Tuesday.
Next week?
Next week?
Next week it comes out.
Thank God.
Next week, yeah. They haven't been advertising it, but next week. And I can't remember. Also, they said next month that they're getting the OVA/movies of the sequel to Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress, which I'm super excited for because I thought that was a really cool pet project they did that the creators of Attack on Titan did that I was happy that they were able to make and thought it was pretty good. So, but yeah, I don't know. If you guys have opinions, you can always write into us at the RS podcast at writestuff.com. Let us know how you feel about manga versus anime. Do you like to binge the anime, maybe pick up the manga, or just let the anime kind of cruise through and watch the manga or read the manga later? I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting thing that people are so decisive on the way they do it, and everybody's like kind of different. And it's super interesting to me. So, well, 3 out of 4 of us last week went and saw.
Not to signal anybody
out.
I can't help it. I run pub quizzes twice a week.
No, and I mean, there's a lot of things that I don't get to, but Millennium Actress is one that I hold is my favorite Satoshi Kon work. That and Tokyo Godfathers is pretty tied for me. But it came back out, and it was finally a chance to see it in theaters, and 3 of us saw it. I've seen it before. Quinn, you had never seen it before, right?
I had managed to not know a single thing about this movie other than it existed.
And so what did you think of it for your first time?
I liked how they integrated the interviewer for the documentary and his cameraman into her flashbacks, but I also found that confusing because, and it also took me out of the scene sometimes. Like suddenly they just pop back in and I'm like, oh yeah, those guys, they do exist in this timeline. And eventually the interviewer, he actually crossed her path as a younger man, so then he's not only talking with her as a young man, but also as the documentary maker, and then the cameraman turns into just the interloper on her memories. And I liked all of that, but still had some issues with it.
Yeah.
I know it ended, and I was expecting more from it, and it just was like, oh, that was it. Okay. So, I mean, I enjoyed it, but I don't think I was near on the level as you.
Yeah, I mean, my joy of it comes from going to film school. I studied a lot of Japanese film, like early Japanese film. So like just seeing like the like the kickback to like a lot of the early Kurosawa stuff, Ron, and like even like some of the Godzilla stuff. And I get a huge kick out of that. Like you're also getting like a film history lesson with all that stuff. And I've always liked the way that Cohn manipulates like reality. Like like Paprika is probably my least favorite, but in ways I still love it so much. I mean, you can see a lot of elements of Paprika in like Inception, and the way they kind of do that, where they're like in Inception, they're going from dream to dream to dream, and then like Paprika, they're going like from like dreams as well, and just how they kind of layer on top of each other and stuff like that. But I just always like how the manipulation of like that time and those ideas, and like the cameraman to me is kind of like us as the viewer. Like
oh yeah, like some of the comments like, he was making, I was like right there with you,
right there. The cameraman's very much like us, and I don't know. I like the I can't remember what the character's name is, but the gentleman who is doing the interview and also is the one that like kind of worshipped her and worked with her. I like him a lot because he does kind of remind me of like those people who finally get to meet like their like people they idolize and stuff like that, and they kind of hold him up on like this thing like, oh, she was like the greatest actress of all time.
I will say too that his character, for such a fanboy, he keeps it together and as a professional really well.
Oh yeah,
except when he keeps inserting himself into the stories.
Yeah. So no,
it becomes the characters themselves. I forgot about that.
Oh, it's like, oh nope, there's this thing that happens to her and now she can't escape. Well, here he becomes the I can't think of the name of it. It's the thing that they put into a film.
The MacGuffin?
MacGuffin.
There you go.
He becomes the MacGuffin, like, every time. Like, oh, she's locked up. Oh, here he comes with the key to let her out. And, like, oh, no, she's trapped and she's going to get arrested. Oh, here he comes as a samurai or, like, a ninja to, like, save the day. So, like, he MacGuffins to keep the movie going so she can keep going in all the different movies she's in. And I don't know. I find the flow of that. That movie, to me, like, is, like, 20 minutes long. Like, it just feels like it starts to introduce the movie part, just kind of just flows smoothly, which is ridiculous for everything that goes on, and it reaches its like kind of sad, kind of happy conclusion that sometimes for like the idea that I get is like she's always like looked for this guy to see him again, stuff like that, but maybe part of the joy in her life was just the search and like this thing that kind of ended up becoming unattainable to her. But I'm just kind of babbling on. Well, what did you think?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with a lot of what Thomas said. There's just as a first-time viewer, there's a lot to just go back and rewatch again because there just seems to be so many layers to this movie. Not only just about what's part of her life and what's not part of her life, but also how like your relationship between yourself and the media that you consume or take part in, and how do you differentiate, or whether it's even worth differentiating on. And that obviously shows up a lot in her as an actress and all the seamless combination of her movie scenes and her real life stuff. So there's just a whole lot to like dissect and look into that really like intrigues me. But with all of that, for some reason, it just didn't get a huge emotional reaction from me. I don't know why. I've been for the past week. I've been trying to figure out why that is. The best answer I could come up with is that as a social media guy, I had to constantly like promote it on our social media channels. Which could accidentally create this overhype for me and expectations.
And that's one of the worst things too. Is like just to use like a common movie as an example, like The Goonies. Like a lot of people have a lot of nostalgia for that movie, and like if you did grow up with it, like it holds a special place in a lot of people's hearts. Like for me, like I'm a huge Mighty Ducks fan. Like the Mighty Ducks movies aren't like the best movies in the world, but I was really into hockey when I was young, and those movies hit me just right. But like if you are not in that, watch these and through nostalgia-colored glasses from when you were younger, some of these things just don't kind of hold up. And I mean, we have a lot of people that kind of coming into anime and manga and stuff like now that like like, let's say Urusei Yatsura is now getting re-released, and like I really like it. But on a level, I'm able to appreciate something that there's a lot of things that have come out that have done it before, but I'm able to appreciate that this was like the standard. Devilman is another really kind of good example, but like if you didn't see these classics and like these people like overhype it as like the best thing ever, and you watch it, like sometimes like it doesn't like live up to those expectations, and it's just part of reality. Like it doesn't like judge you as a viewer at all if you don't like something that somebody else doesn't like. Like it just, everybody takes in media differently. Like, and I think what you're saying completely makes sense. Like,
Because
how often have you heard that people say Satoshi Kon, like Millennium Actress, is his best work? Like people say that all the time, and it's just like, well, you hold up to this high standard, you finally get to watch it, and then like you're just like, oh, this is a good movie, but So,
but it's like I agree with almost exactly the same thing as you. It's the emotional resonance, just for some reason, is a different degree.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I know I used Goonies, but like I didn't see the Goonies till I was 2020.
Same.
Oh, yeah.
And I just didn't care for it. I was like, oh, that was a 80s thing.
Yeah,
a pure 80s thing.
A lot of that stuff is just timing, because like I'm in the same boat. Like I grew up, and I love Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I love Blues Brothers, but then there's like The Sandlot. I think that one I completely missed. Maybe I aged out of that one. And like Princess Bride, I feel bad because everybody's just like, as you wish. And I'm like, that movie was all right.
Yeah. No, like I said, I think it has a lot to do with your feelings when you're younger for that. I'm not a huge Jim Henson fan, but a lot of people love his work. Like everybody's so excited for the new Dark Crystal coming out, and I just don't have that like.
I just love the classic Muppet movies. They're just so fun.
Yeah, those are good too.
Yeah, I do. I will say I do like the Muppet movies. I think those are kind of timeless. But no, like
don't forget about Follow That Bird.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sesame Street.
Has anybody seen Tokyo Godfather?
No,
I
haven't.
I want to. That one looks cool.
Yeah.
I'll bring this. You guys can borrow it. That's one of my. I watch it every Christmas. Like it's like one of my Christmas movies. Which
Nice.
might seem weird to some people, but it's just a really good, heartwarming tale. It is sad, Satoshi Kon did pass away very young, and he only really had the 4 big movies: Millennium Actress, Tokyo Godfathers, Paprika, and Perfect Blue. And then he did the awesome Paranoia Agent, which you can't find anywhere unless you buy it for a lot of money on DVD, which is really sad because it is such an awesome series. But it would have been cool to see him kind of carry on his career, because I kind of just thought, like, he was, like, I like his work a lot, but he was eventually working towards a masterpiece, I think. And I think each one of his, like, creations has something that's really amazing about it. And eventually those sums become one, and then he creates something, but fortunately passed away super young. So, but no, I would say if you haven't checked out Millennium Actress, you should. I think it does kind of have something for everybody. Like I think a lot of my love for it is just the kickback, old school Japanese, films, Kurosawa and stuff. That makes me super happy. I like the love story. It's okay, but it just kind of takes. To me, it's not like the center stage, and I think you guys kind of felt like it didn't have that bang at the end.
Well, no, it was just because it was the last line had me making me rethink, like almost like a lot of the main character's motivations after that last line. So it's like, maybe I have to rethink this her whole arc as well.
Well, Millennium Actress is streaming on Amazon Instant Video right now, so you still have a chance to watch it there. There hasn't been an announcement for a Blu-ray, but 11 Arts, they usually, after they do a release, they announce something.
That has
So
been a trend.
I would say keep your eye out. I'm pretty sure a release of that will eventually happen. So, all right. So we're just going to touch on one quick thing before we get into a couple of recommendations of anime films that we really, really love. We are going into our last week of our donation drive for KyoAni. And Quinn, where are we at for donations right now?
Fandom has officially donated through our website $20,392.
That's awesome.
Yep, so that'll be going to Kyoto Animation.
Yep. So we've got one more week, so you guys can hop on if you guys are doing any ordering or if you just want to donate to the cause. We do have a lot of KyoAni's anime up on our site, If you type in KyoAni into our search bar, you can see a lot of their stuff that they're very well known for. So if you want to take a look at that, you also can as well. But you've got one more week left. On the 31st of August will be the last day we take donations. And then we will make sure we do some kind of social media announcement to let you know what we raised and how much we are donating to them to help them out. One of the good things that did come out today is Japan is not going to tax any of the donations that come to KyoAni,
nice.
and it will all be considered disaster relief. So all that money will go to KyoAni to help out the families and help the studio get back on its feet. I have seen they have a trailer out for the new Violet Evergarden movie, so it does look like things are kind of moving along and they're kind of getting back to normal as much as they can. And I know that they said that they're taking down a couple of the things that were built for those who passed away to kind of, you know, you never move on, but you had a time you have to kind of keep going. And I think they're getting to that point. So, well, we want to thank everybody who has donated to that. So. All right, so since we were talking about Millennium Actress, we were kind of just thinking about anime films that we really, really, really like, and we're each going to kind of cover two, just to kind of give you guys some ideas of some stuff that we recommend. Quinn, we'll start off with you. What is one of your all-time favorite anime films?
So I'm going to preface this with, I haven't seen this in years, so I don't remember the exacts about everything. It is no longer in print either. It's the Skycrawlers, and the whole premise is just fighter pilots in this very sparsely populated world that literally just get in their planes, fly off, and then they'll come back. But sometimes they don't come back, and you're just kind of left wondering what is going on in their world. It's an alternate world, so it's not really based in anything that we're familiar with. And you just stay at the base. You never go with them, from what I remember. Asterisk mark. And I just remember watching the film just kind of not really that into it, but at the very end, it all clicks, and it's like, oh. So I had to go back and watch it again, but it was also very slow paced, so I just told myself I would do that at a later date, and I have yet to do that many years later. It also has a ridiculously awesome soundtrack. Oh my goodness. I've listened to that more than I've watched the movie.
One of the crazy things about Skycrawlers is it's directed by Mamoru Oshii, who did like Angel's Egg and Ghost in the Shell, Beautiful Dreamer, Urusei Yatsura. So it's very bleak.
It is very bleak. There's
I really
no happy
like it
to
too.
it at all.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
No,
Yeah,
I really, really like it. It's still available?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay.
I don't believe
well,
so.
I have it at home, so if anybody wants to
Yeah.
borrow it, I can bring that for you.
I
Just
do too.
call our company. And
This is
just-
why we keep Thomas around.
Yeah. Before I started working here, I was a collector myself, so I do have a bunch of very odd stuff. But no, Skycrawlers is good. I wish more people would have seen it when it first came out. Maybe they'll have some kind of renaissance for it, or some company will re-license it, and people will be able to check it out again. So, Chris, what do you got?
All right, I've got a couple of things that go way back. And so the first one just sort of sticks out in my memory because I grew up a child of the 80s and 90s and didn't get a lot of exposure on me because the closest we got to that was pretty much like Voltron and Robotech as kids. And I remember distinctly, like, when we got cable, like, some of the cool things, like, USA and TBS would have, like, sort of their subversive late-night programming on the weekends, like Night Flight and, like, Night Tracks, I think was TBS's version. And I remember specifically they ran one night where it was a double feature, and the first one was Vampire Hunter D, which I thought was pretty cool, but I was never a big vampire guy. But the second one, the one I'm talking about that ran right after that, was a movie called Robot Carnival. And this one's a really cool anthology movie from the late 80s. And it's sort of bookended by featurettes directed by Katsuhiro Otomo. And it's just ridiculous because it's just this sort of desert post-apocalyptic town, and a kid finds a poster that says the Robot Carnival is on the way. And he panics. And he runs back to his hometown to tell people. And everybody starts freaking out, and then the Robot Carnival arrives. And is just this monolithic, gigantic mechanism like the size of 8 space shuttle gantries right next to each other, just towering over everything. And there's little robot automatons playing music and dancing and doing acrobatics as the big mechanism steamrolls the entire village.
Oh no.
And so that just sort of sets a story for an anthology, a series of really interesting shorts handling robotics. Like, one of them is a play on Frankenstein, where a guy creates his own robot in his own image and just tries to keep on getting it working. And when he finally does, he starts dancing. The robot sees him and starts dancing and crushes his creator by accident.
Oops.
There's one where it's just a girl goes to an amusement park and kind of falls in love with a robot entertainer. And so it's just this dreamy little sort of music video sort of vibe where there's like sci-fi adventure and stuff like that. There's one where it's just a throwback where it's like feudal Japan and Western influences coming in, so they actually build a makeshift like wooden robot to fight them off. And so it's got like 6 little shorts that work really well, but each have really interesting takes on robotics, and they're all very unique, very artistic, and it's just a really cool watch. And so I highly suggest that one. We've got it on Blu-ray, I believe, on our site. It's just really cool.
So I got something funny. You bring that up, it totally hit my nostalgia thing. I know exactly what you're talking about. Cartoon Network ran this thing one night called Night of the Vampire Robot. And it was your vampire hunter, and it was Robot Carnival. Here's the preview of it.
And now the Cartoon Network's going to give it to you. 6 hours of intense Japanese animation with Robot Carnival, Vampire Hunter D, and Twilight of the Cockroaches.
Nice move!
It's the Cartoon Network's Night of the Vampire Robots, Saturday night at midnight on the best place for cartoons.
And that was before Toonami came out.
That's awesome. I love that.
I can't believe I remember that, but when you started talking about it, I was just like, I remember a double feature of Vampire Hunter D and Robot Carnival, because that was how I first experienced Robot Carnival too.
Nice.
Staying up till 6 a.m. at night watching that stuff. But, oh man, that takes me back.
Oh, yeah.
No, and Robot Carnival is available on DVD and Blu-ray through Discotech. I do highly recommend you pick that up. It is an awesome
So
classic. Cool. So, Will, what do you got?
I'm going to be basic here and say Princess Mononoke is a pretty good watch. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty good.
It is.
Right?
Yeah, it's just one of those movies that really just pulled me in. I think it was just because of its like deliberate slow pacing. Something about stuff like that just really just like hooks me and pulls me into like the story and the world. And obviously the visuals themselves are very epic and just like gorgeous to look at. Like, I think it's called the Nightwalker. The form the forest spirit takes.
Yeah.
Takes when at night, and it's just like that first scene where you watch him is just absolutely spellbinding to watch.
So was your first experience with it, was it the dub, or was it the subtitled?
I've only experienced the dub so far.
Okay. And there's been like a kind of resurgence in people talking about the Miramax dub of it, because what is the name of that writer?
I don't know.
Neil
why
Gaiman.
Neil Gaiman
Yeah.
came
I have
out,
that one.
which I had heard about back in the day, but he came out and he said, yeah, I was one of the people that made the dub for it, so a bunch of people have been like, oh, I want to revisit the dub, but the Blu-rays don't have a dub on it because there's a Miramax dub and stuff like that. So
Ooh, I got a collector's item. Woo!
yeah, there's interest in it again, and I want to check eBay to see what it's worth.
And the
now.
cast for that one was really good too. Was
Yeah,
Yeah.
they very much pushed it. Like there's Gillian Anderson,
Yeah.
Oh,
X
yeah,
Files, and I can't remember.
Didn't they have the dub in the theater though? When it
Yeah,
came
like
back
this
through?
got put into theaters, and I don't know if I want to say it was the first. Like it was the first big anime one they've pushed.
Yeah.
Like even the other ones, I can't remember if Totoro had a theatrical release back when it first came out.
And
I
I think that was
remember the old school VHS
Yeah.
tape of that, the art of it, but I don't know if it ever.
I think that was the first one that Disney handled because Miramax
Yeah.
was part of them, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
when they started doing the big Ghibli push.
Yeah.
And like the one that always sticks out in my memory was the Kiki's Delivery Service, where you had Kirsten Dunst as Kiki, Phil Hartman's final role as Gigi.
That was the best Gigi.
It's so good.
And then the new ones have some of his lines removed, and I'm like, no, I'm never letting go of my copy.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No, yeah, Princess Mononoke, I think it was like the one that opened a lot of doors for people. I didn't really get into it until Spirited Away, but going back, like Princess Mononoke is awesome. It's almost his darkest, like one, too. Like,
Yeah, I would say that.
Definitely.
Yeah, darker than that. I think like
Lot of-
Nausicaa.
Nausicaa's
would
pretty
be,
dark,
like, the
but I think that
would be the
one's-
second.
there's
the
blood.
much more
and-
brutal.
Yeah, it's a rough one.
I mean, it deals with a lot of like complicated issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still even holds up today. So my first one I'm going to talk about is Red Line, and I would say it's kind of a newer one. I think it's getting close to it's either this year is its 10th anniversary, or getting close to its 10th anniversary. But I just love this, the style and the craziness of it. Like the animation for this is just so slick.
Oh, yeah.
The director of this had previously done animation for like Ninja. God, I am doing terrible today. I was going to say
You
Ninja
remember
Slayer,
the-
Ninja Scrolls.
There you
And like he just has such an awesome style. And this thing's so slick. Like the racing is great. The character designs, I mean, even like down to like what shoe each character is wearing is like super stylized. It's just awesome. And I mean, Promare is coming out through Trigger, which I think looks really, really cool too. But like, there hasn't been anything like Red Line like since it came out. Like, Madhouse really took a chance on something like this, and it didn't end up doing very well for them, unfortunately. And I think that has a lot to do with them not taking chances. Like, we get the silent voices and stuff that kind of come out, and they're very safe. They're going to have a mass audience. But Red Line was just kind of something special. It kind of reminded me of like the crazy like Aeon Flux style like 90s animation that I really, really liked. And whenever it's on, or if I find it, like I just stop and watch it. Like, the characters are, they're not super fleshed out. They give you enough stuff just so you know, like, oh, this guy, this is his motivation, because it is all about like the awesome animation and how it looks.
Yeah, it's a lot of action and enough story to support that action. But yeah, you're there for the adrenaline.
Oh, yeah.
That's what that movie is.
Yeah, and even the main character, like, when he's not racing, he's just kind of like, bleh. But then when he's racing, like, he is, like, super excited, super pumped. And that's how we are as the audience. Like, let's get back to the racing. And that's just kind of why I've always really, really liked Red Line. And like I said, there hasn't been anything like it since it came out. It makes me kind of sad. So if you haven't checked it out yet, I gotta assume there's places to watch it for free. I even think
YouTube.
YouTube has
Yep,
it.
it got posted on YouTube for free.
Really?
Yeah, but not like.
Okay, I looked it
Not
up.
like
It's free with ads.
Okay.
So yeah, it looks like it then warns you that it's inappropriate for some users. I don't remember anything. I don't remember that there was nudity or
Maybe they
anything.
curse
There's just
a
a few
lot.
curse words, yeah.
Maybe there's some curse words, so it must be the dub. But yeah, you gotta check it out. Watch it on YouTube. But if you have a nice TV, get the Blu-ray of it because the animation's incredible. So
It is.
That-
Did they? It's all hand drawn, right? Like it's
yeah,
not CGI?
yeah, but it's like
Yeah.
traditional hand drawn. I don't know if there was any
I don't think there
CG
was any.
at all, and I don't recall anything that and usually CG will stick out to me
Yeah.
like a
Oh,
sore
yeah.
thumb. Every time Vinland Saga does something in CG, I'm like, oh, there it is. But no, it's awesome. So check out Red Line. Quentin, what's your next one?
I'm also going back into the out of print section. Sorry, guys. It is Read or Die, the OVA series. So this was, I believe, a three OVA series, and the whole premise is the main character can control paper. And while that sounds like the wussiest special ability ever, it is so cool. Because she makes them, like, she takes the paper and will have it simultaneously be, like, hard as a rock and cut people, and then it'll just be the most flimsy thing and smother people. Like, she's got... She could be on My Hero Academia. Just saying. She could totally wipe the face with some of those characters. But anyway... But I don't remember what the overall plot was. I just remember really enjoying the action, the use of her ability with the paper, and the characters themselves were fleshed out well. I just don't remember the overall plot, but I really liked it.
I vaguely remember some of the plot, and I know it involved stuff like a ancient library or something like that, and a lot of there was
Like
a
they were trying
composer.
to
I think that was the main villain.
It feels like there was like some mystery
There's definitely some
Yeah.
strange secret history,
Yeah.
sort of Assassin's Creed-y kind of, this is how the world actually works mythology to it. And there's some cool steampunk stuff going on in that movie, or in the OVA too, that I really enjoyed. Like,
Yeah.
I was also a big fan of the TV series also, where
Yeah, like-
it wasn't the same.
Yeah, it wasn't the
obviously.
same. It wasn't.
But it
the
was just
same,
like
yeah.
3 sisters who had similar powers, doing, like, continuing where the original character Yomiko left off. But it's just a cool franchise that I really wish they would have kept on building on.
Yeah, yeah. It could have totally been so much bigger than it was.
Mhm.
But it was like really, really talked about too.
Yeah.
Back when it came out, everybody was hyping it.
But then you also got the nice moments where Yomiko was just like, I'm just going to sit at home and read all day.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe that's why I'm overly torn towards it. It's like, oh look, she likes to read too. Another Sheska. Ah.
The Read or Die, I always think of it because it was one of Anaplex's first like releases was Read or Die, and then there were only the Kenshin Samurai X movies.
Oh, those are
And
good too.
Every once in a while, I used to host a panel on like rare Blu-rays and DVDs and how expensive they are because they're out of print. And this is not a real thing, but I looked up the complete Blu-ray Aniplex set on eBay, and the first result came up. It has it for $7,000.
Holy cow.
So,
Yeah, I can afford that.
yeah, I mean they have the one that was released by Manga Entertainment and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
I always remember that was like one of the here's a more reasonable one for $700. But yeah, I remember that, and yeah, because that was the OVA and the TV series on Blu-ray, and that was one of the
Oh.
very first forays for Aniplex
okay.
into the market.
I was gonna say I didn't even know it had a Blu-ray. So
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't. My first one, I got the Samurai X's or the Rurouni Kenshin OVAs on Blu-ray. Those were the first ones I got. But yeah, Read or Die. I always remember the AMVs and clips from that, but I unfortunately never got into it either. So cool, Chris. What's yours?
All right, my second one's another bit of a nostalgia, but it's a little less much of a throwback. Though the series might have actually predated Robot Carnival, but the one I'm thinking of when I was in the Fort Dodge, Iowa area going to college, like I used to work at a Walmart during the time, and when I'd get off the clock, there was a Blockbuster nearby. And that is when I really dipped my toes into the deeper waters of anime, because like I could just watch the stuff like Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon on TV, but this one had more options, and there were definitely some interesting choices there. I didn't even know what I was getting, so I rented them. I remember distinctly my first one I grabbed was Plastic Little, and I was just like, okay, this is terrible. This is just fan service. It was so bad that when they put it out on DVD, they had a jiggle counter feature. But the one that really hooked me was Gunbuster. Gunbuster is one of Gainax's first OVAs that they did. And it was directed by Hideaki Anno, who we all know went on to do Evangelion, amongst many other things. But it was a weird mix of giant robot and sports parody. Because the whole storyline was they were these weird alien entities that were the size of, in some cases, entire planets. They were just strange insectoid, there was no way to communicate with them, and they were just coming to wipe out humanity. And so there's this girl, Noriko Takaya, who ends up training to become a pilot of their sort of giant robot army. And it's ridiculous because in the first episode, you see them going to Giant Robot Academy, where they're actually in the suits doing push-ups and chin-ups to show like their dexterity with the suit. But once you get past that, it gets into a really interesting sci-fi story about how they handle fighting these monsters, how they have to keep on ratcheting up the power level to defeat it, and they unveil this giant suit named Gunbuster that they have to use to fight it off. And it does some really cool, interesting sci-fi stuff, because one of the things they handle is time dilation when you go near the speed of light. One of the first missions they do is the aliens are popping up around the orbit of, like, I want to say it's like Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, one of the outer planets. And so they have to hurry out there fast to get there, but they're like, oh, by the way, you're going at light speed. So when you come back, like 3 years are going to have passed. And so they go out, they fight off the alien menace, they come back, And then all of a sudden, all their friends have graduated from the academy. The ship that they were going to go out and seek out these aliens on is finished, even though it was halfway done when they left. And so they do a lot of cool stuff. And like in the original VHS release, they had little cute chibi mini explanations of how the sci-fi science worked. And you kind of lose that in the Blu-ray version. But it was just something that really caught me because it was just this cool concept of really deep sci-fi and giant robot fighting, but also had some depth to it. So I was a big fan of that.
Cool. All right, and Will, what do you got?
Well, I didn't mention this in what I've been watching, but last night I ended up watching The Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya.
Have you watched any Haruhi before that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I wouldn't have watched it if I didn't.
Well, honestly, it's good enough where even if you have no prior knowledge of Haruhi, it's still really, really good.
There's a lot to appreciate in the direction, and like they really know. Like this movie can be absolutely gorgeous, like when it wants to, and it's already really pretty with the framing and the scenery and everything. But like there are just moments where like it turns on the music. It really heightens up like the emotions in the scene, and it all comes together to create these just really beautiful moments for me. And it's easily the best part of the Haruhi franchise for me. I thought the TV show was alright. I ended up watching the TV show in chronological order, so I feel like I missed something.
Did you even watch Endless Eight?
I did end up watching Endless Eight
Good
too.
for you. I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting experiment, but it ultimately didn't bear out like it should. Anyways, back to the movie.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
But the movie just really takes everything and really just gives a dramatic and serious bent. You really get to see the characters as characters instead of like the archetypes that they were trying to parody in the TV show. And you get to see sides to them that you wouldn't have seen otherwise because of the concept of how he not only disappeared, nobody remembers her, and like the whole different aspects of the world that changed because of it. And it's really an interesting character study for Kyon. I feel like he really grew in this 2.5 hours more than he did in the 28 episode run that happened. And you get to see like Haruhi as a little bit more toned down, and you get to see that there is definitely more of a good side to her than you may have gotten to see in like the original series. And it's a great series finale overall. I felt like maybe the time travel stuff might have gotten a little over my head at the end there. But other than that, there really isn't much for me to criticize about this really beautiful and surprisingly emotional movie for me. And it's really sad that some of the people who have worked on such a good project are no longer with us.
The thing that's always blown my mind, I love that movie too. It's actually, if I'm going to watch anything Haruhi, that's the only thing I watch now is that movie. But like I remember how big Haruhi was, and like it was like huge, and like today, like you very rarely hear anybody really talk about it. And like when it was like at its height, like I would have thought like, oh, this is something that people are going to be talking about again in like 10, 15 years, but not really. Like
no, it's because I think it's mostly because it's one of those series that everything that seemed to come after it is really just try and build on the initial success to where it feels like it's just kind of osmosis, I guess. It's just become part of everything. That it's like it's going back to it. You kind of just feel like, oh yeah, it reminds me of this show that came out and this show that came out. But it's always the shows that came after it.
Yeah.
I'd also say that some of the hype that surrounded the original TV show was the fact that they aired things out of order.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Like that
Yeah,
created so much
I
buzz.
honestly felt like I missed out a lot by watching in chronological.
I'll just put it this way: I didn't know what the heck was going on, so I dropped it. So that didn't work for me.
Yeah. I just remember the conventions, like everybody doing the dance.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
God, the
Like,
dance. Yeah.
And then like I was like, what is this dance from? And then I saw the Haruhi, and Haruhi, the TV show wasn't for me, but that movie was great. So yeah, that was a good one. All right, so my last one is total opposite direction of Redline, is In This Corner of the World. I like the movies you can kind of just sit in and live in that world. A good example for that is I'm a huge fan of Only Yesterday from Ghibli. It's just the world, like, I mean, there's a huge event that happens in this, but like for a lot of it, it's just like you're just living with a family and you're watching their everyday, interactions, and
Yep.
like to like normal people, nothing big really happens, but it makes the big events that do happen in it that much bigger because it is so normal. Some people did not care for the animation, but I thought the animation in that was awesome.
It's got a very unique style.
Yeah, like it's almost watercolory.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like I just love the way it looks. I love the way the characters interact with one another, and it's infinitely rewatchable because there's so many things that you don't catch on the first viewing. One of the things that always kind of blew my mind when I first saw it was the scene towards the end of it. So it eventually gets to the point where they're a neighboring, I don't know if you want to call it a town or a village, to Hiroshima. I mean, they are a good distance away, but they feel some of the ramifications of what happens when the bomb drops there towards the end of the film. And one of the events that happened is one of the guys tries to walk home to his mother's house, and there's a scene where they're all exiting this house, and there's this guy that you have no idea who he is. He's just laying up against the house, and he's just laying there, and the scene just moves on like he's not there, and like you're almost so focused at the people leaving the house and what they're talking about that you don't notice him there kind of laying there dying, basically. I think at that point he's already passed away.
Yeah.
But a couple minutes you get back into the film, and they're kind of discussing the woman who lived there and the main girl, Suzu. They're kind of walking along, and they're talking about loss and stuff, and she talks about how they found her son, and he was just laying up against the house, and he had died, and he walked all the way there. And you're like, oh my God, that is so unbelievably tragic.
It's so sad.
That's kind of how the movie plays that kind of tragedy. Even the and there's going to be spoilers for this. There is a scene where her sister-in-law is going to go get a watch fixed, and the main girl takes her daughter for kind of a little stroll, and at this point there's air raids happening like every couple hours. Like this is the point where the war was really reaching its climax, and they unfortunately go into a spot where a bomb went into the ground, didn't explode, and they kind of walk on it, and it causes the bomb to blow up, and she loses a little girl. She loses her arm, which is also the arm she used to draw these amazing pictures, and it's just so unbelievably devastating. Like I always remember watching Grave of the Fireflies for the first time, and like I just have no need to ever watch that again because I almost felt like at a point it's almost misery porn. It's so bad over and over and over. And this one, like the optimism that these characters try to keep when all these terrible things are happening, the loss, like she eventually finds her sister did survive, but her sister is suffering from radiation poisoning, which at this time they didn't know that this is what this was causing. They're like, oh, I just have the flu, I'll get better eventually. And it's like, no, unfortunately not. And then like the end is always kind of, it breaks you a little, where to me it's like the most reminiscent part of Grave of the Fireflies, where this little orphan girl is walking along with her mother, and her mother's got shards of giant glass sticking out of her, and they just find a rock to sit on and relax for a minute because like the mother's dying. And then the little girl wakes up and her mother is like been infested with maggots, and it's really, really dark. And then, but it all leads to the hope at the end where this little orphan girl finds Suzu and her husband, and they take her in. It never really alludes to it, but she's not going to be able to have children of her own. But they take her in, and then the credits are like them kind of growing up, and it fills you that there's still hope. And these terrible tragedies happen, these very sad things, but what I really like about this movie so much is like there is a hope, there is a need to get past it. And I always remember the scene where when Japan finally gives up and they have the radio announcement, and she finally has her first like complete breakdown where she's just like, well, what the hell have we been fighting for? Like, we've made all these sacrifices, and this country said this was going to lead to like the golden era, and now they just gave up, and our towns are destroyed, and we've been barely had anything to eat, and we've lost family. Like, what the hell is it all about? And it's very human to see, like, even in the times where you try to stay optimistic, like sometimes you just break down and it all just comes crumbling down. And I thought that was a really good moment for her to have that breakdown. But it's a beautiful movie. It is a little over 2 hours. It is long, but like I said, I like movies and I like worlds that I can just kind of sit in. And this is very much one. Like, even the gardening scenes, I just are like, oh man, this is just so beautiful. And she's visiting the towns and stuff like that. So I just highly recommend In This Corner of the World if you did miss it. It was really cool that this even got made. This was a Japan crowdfunded movie. The director of it was actually the one that did Black Lagoon, which is really, really different.
Yeah.
If you think about two polar opposites, but it was a very famous manga. And I was really happy to see that it got an adaptation that it got. So check out In This Corner of the World. It's released by Shout Factory on Blu-ray, and we do have it on our site if you'd like to check it out. So, but that's all we've got for kind of some recommendations for some movies. We're just going to kind of finish up here next Sunday, so not this Sunday coming up, but the week after Sunday, which is September 1st at 1:30, we will be having a Right Stuff Anime panel at the Crunchyroll Expo. It'll be the first time Right Stuff Anime is there. We unfortunately don't have a booth there, but I will be wandering around hunting down Junji Ito to get his autograph.
Now remember, you need to act like the director of the documentary and Millennial Actress.
Oh, that's
Holding
right.
the fanboy.
Yes, I will. I want him to autograph all my stuff. But I'm only going to get one
if you
thing autographed.
out-creep him, I'll be impressed.
Yeah. Well, I'm super excited because he's having panels there, and he wrote this awesome book about his cats. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of it.
I've seen
No,
it.
I've heard, but not seen.
And how like there's like these ideas like, oh, his cats are evil and stuff like that. And it's just really, really. If you read all his dark stuff and then read something like that, it's a lot of fun. But he's hosting a panel about like that book, like the cats and stuff like that. So that's actually the one I'm most excited to see him talk about. But
does he answer the question as to why cats knock everything off tables?
I'll ask him that.
Okay.
Like, why do you think cats not gonna? And he's gonna go into this like big, deep, dark story of this is the reason why cats do it. But yeah, we have a panel that September 1st, Sunday at 1:30. We'll have two new Gundam announcements, so that'll be kind of exciting. So mystery, yes. So yeah, come check it out if you guys are at Crunchyroll Expo, and if you see me walking around in a Right Stuff Anime shirt, make sure you come up and say hi. I always like to meet fans and meet people who love our site in person. So, yeah. And then coming up this next week, our sale is going to be a comedy sale. So we are going to be
joking around.
Yep, just joking around. So we're going to be highlighting some of the best comedy, anime, and manga that we've got. So make sure you come over and check that out. But yeah, I think that's all we've got for this week. Hopefully you've gotten some good anime movie recommendations. A lot of what we talked about is available, except for the stuff that Quinn talked about.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have other things written down that are on the site. I could just say them.
Yeah.
Make up for it. Go watch Howl. H-A-L. There you go.
Yes.
The twist at the end is worth it.
But if you have any questions for us or any ideas, just email us over at rspodcast@rightstuff.com. Let us know what you think of the podcast. If you have any questions for us, we're always happy to answer things that might be things that you always wondered about how things run here. So that's all we've got for this week. I hope you guys have a good Labor Day coming up, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. Have a good one.
Adios.
Take it easy, y'all.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Right Stuff Anime. We'd love to hear from you. Send us your questions or comments to rspodcast@rightstuff.com, and we might just answer them in a future episode. That's rspodcast@rightstuff.com.